Welcome to the Property Mindset Podcast, where I'm Emma Howitt, mentor, investor, and your guide to building wealth, freedom, and personal transformation through property. Property is not just about bricks and mortar. It's about building a life that you truly desire. And in this space, we don't just talk about strategy, we deep dive into mindset, something that I have found is actually missing in a lot of other industries, but has been a real game changer in the professional property circle. So this week, we are going to be talking about the power of persistence in property investing and how to have property success through persistence. So let's turn dreams into actions and actions into success. So why do some people in property really seem to succeed? They start on the journey and they keep going, they do really well and they persist. Whereas others, you sort of see them for 6 months, a year, and then they drop off the face of the earth and they may have quit. What is it? What is the difference between it? I mean, obviously, property isn't always glamorous. We generally are going to always have setbacks. In fact, we've got to expect to have setbacks. There's going to be potential delays, curveballs. But what is it that makes some break through and others quit? I love it. So I'm going to start off with a quote. The day you plant the seed is not the day that you're going to eat the fruit. And this is actually a really interesting one for me. I don't know if it's the right time to talk about it, but I think, or I don't think, but I believe that there is a gestation period for everything. So obviously for humans, it's 9 months. For rabbits, it's 30 days about. But for your goal, that also has a gestation period. And you might write in January that by, the 31st of December this next year, I'm going to have achieved X, Y, and Z. And what can often happen is we hit X, Y, well, we hit those dates and we haven't achieved X, Y, and Z. And we feel like real failures and we feel like, oh, that's no good for us. But actually, just accept that it's got a different gestation period than you had imagined. Keep going. Just know that it will happen, but you need to understand that for you, it has a different gestation period. And I think that can be really, really powerful. So I'd love you to jump and read the book. Tell me if you've read it already. Have you read The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy? I'll put a link into the show notes. Please do use my link. I think it's an Amazon affiliate. I'm quite excited about what I found. And that'll enable me to invest more in this podcast to bring you more information that you want to help you succeed. So The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is very much about success built on small, consistent actions over time. So do take a chance to go and read that and really think about, how does that affect me? How can I do something that daily will help me reach my goals? So there is, I don't know if you know the bamboo tree lesson. So apparently the bamboo tree, it actually grows underground for 5 years before it ever breaks the surface. But as we know, once it does break the surface, it absolutely shoots up rapidly. And again, I've actually grown asparagus, fields of it, a massive field of it. And you can literally, when it's in full, growth or whatever it's called, you can literally see it growing. It grows so fast, but it takes a number of years for it to build up to that. So you have to be really patient. But equally, you could, after a short amount of time, go, oh, this is not working. I'm going to give it up and I'm going to plow it up. So it really does take persistence. So what makes people give up too soon? What stops an investor from staying the course? So I think a really big one, and I certainly found it when my mindset isn't as strong as it could be. I find that property investing is literally like riding a roller coaster. Please tell me, do you feel that too? 1 minute, and this is like, it can be in the space of an hour. It's not just in general. Even in a day, you can have something amazing happen in the morning, and by the afternoon, something terrible has happened. So in the morning, you might have had an offer accepted, and in the afternoon, you've got something's happened with your tenant, or in serviced accommodation, you've got an issue with a client. All of these things can feel like a massive roller coaster. And I do find that once my mindset is more in control, once I see things for what they are, once I know, I mean, I do go and look at my interview with John Howard. He talks about the fact that he expects things to go wrong. He expects the ups and downs. So if you have that expectation, it doesn't feel like such a roller coaster. And what I like to say is a roller coaster is big ups and big downs. But what we want to try and do is have more of a ripple effect. Just, obviously you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs, but we want them to be much narrower in the way that we see and understand it. So obviously that can be really emotional, these highs and lows. We can have this kind of lack of immediate results, which is very frustrating. And equally, if things are not happening, we can be really feeling like we're failing. Is this me? Am I doing something wrong that this isn't going so smoothly? So quite often people have an expectation, but actually that expectation is not reality. It's not reality, and that's fine. We just need to understand that there are things that will go right and things that won't. And a lot of it is experience, it's time, it's learning. But equally, there are some times where things just happen. So, people can quit when things get tough, but that is what makes a really great seasoned investor. Is it's not just one deal. If a deal doesn't go to plan, it doesn't mean that you failed. I was chatting to a lady the other day, and she had a number of properties, but she'd felt she had some issues with it, and she hadn't been able to pull all her money out, and she'd left 50,000 in the deal. Luckily, that money was in the family, and they were happy for it to sit there. She'd paid all the rest of her investors back, so she'd done incredibly well. It didn't quite work out as she'd hoped, but she still had a property, and it was still paying back that investor. And that was going to be, that's going to be growing anyway. It was a great deal. Going forward, it will make her, and it will cash flow. So, not everything is going to go your way, but literally you could be one step away from a great deal. So I always talk about, especially I've got some mentees who do deal sourcing, and that can feel like a big uphill struggle. And I say to them, when you first start out, they just don't know very much at all. And definitely don't know what they don't know. And that's what I find with a lot of people. You don't know what you don't know. So what I say is, look, you are getting so close. So if you imagine that kind of, you're absolutely digging and digging and digging and trying to find the gold. And you dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. And then the hole's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're getting more and more frustrated. But you just have to know that there is that line of gold. You have to have that faith. You have to know. And you have to keep going. And imagine if you just stopped and you are a millimetre away from that gold. And equally, when I reflect back on them, look how much you've grown. Look how confident you are now making offers. Look how confident you are now analysing deals. These things are so important. And I love this Bill Gates quote. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. Very, very Powerful. So what do people do who actually do succeed? What are the things that enable them to be that person who can turn up, be that person who is successful? What do they do? So one of the things that can really help with being persistent is having small daily actions, and the power of small daily actions is huge. I talk about being persistently consistent and consistently persistent, because sometimes, there's only a certain amount of persistence that you can do. And actually, you have to just do those repetitive things. And often that's why people do give up. And I get this a lot in mentoring people. So everyone starts off really exciting. You're learning new things. It's all, wow, I didn't know that. It's so many opportunities that I can take. And then I talk about, 3 to 4 months in, people get into like the teenage years where things aren't quite happening. You're getting really frustrated. You're not seeing the results. You put the hard graft in, but you're not seeing results. And a lot of the stuff then is suddenly not new anymore. It's actually a bit boring. You might not enjoy just constantly deal analyzing. That might not be the thing that you love doing. But you've got to know that you've got to keep doing that if you want to be successful. So again, persistently consistent and consistently persistent. So just as an example, so we've talked about this consistency over intensity. So let's give an example. So deal sourcing, I've already mentioned this, but obviously the more you analyze, the more deals that you offer on, the more deals you're going to secure. So whether you have some KPIs, so key performance indicators, so every day, how many properties are you going to analyze and have that? How many viewings are you going to do a week? How many offers are you going to do? So I'm a huge fan of Property Filter. I'll give you a link down below. You can get some money off. And what Property Filter does is it takes all motivated vendors, and it can actually enable you can actually sort of gamify it. So rather than, I have people that come to me and they say, I'm spending 3 hours on Rightmove and Zoopla a day. Oh my gosh, what a waste of time. You're basically just re-looking at a whole load of properties that you've seen before that might not be useful. And in somewhere like Property Filter, you can actually each morning look at the ones that have either had a change in price, they're back on the market, anything that's had a slight change, it will come up into your kind of pipeline. And so you're not looking at all those other properties. You're literally looking at the ones that are most relevant to you at that moment. So you can keep a really nice flowing pipeline to keep you going. And these are the things and little ideas that you can do to help you be consistent and persistent rather than spending 3 hours just looking through Rightmove. So another thing you can do where persistency really pays off is something like property networking. So you'll see people. So if you go to a property networking event every month for a year, you're going to see some really incredible things happen. One, you're going to have people who rock up for 1 or 2 sessions, and then you don't see them again. And then you'll have the other people that turn up for most of those sessions. Obviously, people go on holiday, but, they'll turn up for most of those sessions, and they'll really start building rapport. They'll consistently start building relationships. And you'll have people in that room who will only talk to, well, not only talk to, but are more likely to forge relationships with those people who've consistently turned up, because they know they have got some real skills in persistency. They know they're here for the long run. They know they're growing, and they're seeing them perhaps purchasing properties, perhaps getting their first rent to rent, perhaps getting their first tenant. They're learning these things from them each month when they're chatting to them. So that kind of persistency in networking is absolutely key. Another area in property where this consistency is enormous is your mindset. Guess what? This is called property mindset. Absolute game changer, guys. Absolute game changer. Daily habits like affirmations, visualization, these things rewire our subconscious, and it's our subconscious that needs help. We can pretty much control our conscious mind with a lot of effort. You know, we can block out what people are saying to us. We can not listen to the news because, let's be fair, it's just bad news. We can really control perhaps our, behaviors, our conversations. But inherently, we are controlled by our subconscious. So it's doing all of these daily habits that can really start helping change our subconscious and change what we're doing. A great book. So let me know if you've read it or not. And if you have read it, but not recently, go and read it again, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Fantastic, this book. You really, really must have a read of it. And it says, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So what systems do you have in place? What are you doing on a daily basis? Okay, it's not just about the intensity. It really is about the consistency. And being practically persistent in property is really, really where it will get you on your journey and it will keep you going. Remember that your journey has a gestation period. Okay. If you just haven't hit it yet, you haven't failed. It's just got a longer gestation period. So what kind of practical tips could we take to keep this persistency in property? So we've kind of touched on a few, but definitely I'd say number one is create this non-negotiable routine. What habits have you got in place that ensure that you are hitting those KPIs? So remember, pretty much most of us get up and clean our teeth. Well, what can you put in place? What accountability do you need to do? So if you've chosen that your KPIs are, let's say, analyzing 6 deals a day, viewing 3 properties a week, and ensuring that you make a minimum of 1 offer. I mean, at the end of that week, when things haven't gone well and something's happened with the kids, or your parents needed you to do something, or the estate agent is on holiday, or the solicitor's doing this, what can you do rather than, because we all lie to ourselves, we all make the biggest excuses, don't we, to ourselves? So what can you put in place? Is it an accountability partner? Is it, when your partner comes home, you literally have said, you've got to keep me accountable. Is there a tick box? Have you gamified it? Again, I mentioned property filter. That's really useful. Have you ensured that every property that cropped up today, you've at least done some kind of analysis, or, put them into the waiting list? Whatever you've done, it may be that you need to sort of gamify it like that, but put something in place. Just saying, I am going to do this does not mean it's going to happen. We know that. We know that from, gym memberships. People don't always turn up. So how do we track our progress? So this is really key. Make sure that you follow it and congratulate yourself, have a magnum moment, or, have some celebratory dance, go out and go for a walk, whatever it is for you. Make sure you track that progress and celebrate the wins. And if you're tracking that progress and you're consistently not achieving something, so as an example, I used to put the big things just after lunch, all those things that I didn't really want to do. And by tracking my progress, I realized that I never got it done. And it was getting embarrassing. Like every day, I was like, oh, still haven't done that big thing. Oh, still haven't done it. So I had to change the way I did my day to the mornings being the time where I, eat that frog, I get the big jobs done. And then actually in the afternoon, when my energy levels are a bit lower, that's when I tend to do my meetings, my mentoring, because that really energizes me. I absolutely love it. And it brings back that energy. So it works. So only way I could do that was by constantly tracking my progress. So not just the successes, but also the things that you need to improve on. And I think another practical tip is learning how to love the process. So rather than a lot of us, don't we, when we talk about this gestation period of our goal, unless we've hit that goal, we feel like we're failing. But actually, what we got to do is really enjoy the process, really enjoy the journey, really focus on who you are becoming. And if you haven't, on who you are becoming, it's not just the end achievement goal. It's who you become along the way, the people you meet, the relationships you make, the learnings, the ups, the downs. Take into consideration that whole process and start enjoying that journey. And it will make a huge, huge difference to you. There are so many people, successful people, who have made this magic commitment of the long term, of persistence. And as they say, basically winners, they just keep going. They have as many fall downs, they miss as many shots, they have property deals go wrong, but they keep going. And just some persistent people, to give you some examples. Big famous people. Warren Buffett, 99% of his wealth came after the age of 50. Colonel Sanders, so KFC, rejected over 1,000 times before he succeeded. J.K. Rowling, we all know her, rejected 12 times before she got to publish Harry Potter. So you have seen it many times with property investors around you who get stuck, okay? But the ones who keep going, who have problems, but just find solutions, they now run these huge portfolios. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be that person who keeps committed, who is persistently consistent, or consistently persistent? So start thinking about, what are your KPIs? What visualization am I going to be doing? What posting in social media am I going to be doing? All of these things, really, really think about it. And Winston Churchill, this is a real favorite of mine. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. I'm going to repeat that because I love it. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. So today we've really jumped into this persistency, knowing what you have to do in your property journey to ensure that you allow that gestation period. Remember that every goal has a gestation period. Are you going to be consistently persistent and persistently consistent? And do remember, it's not just about what you do, but it's also about what you think. And when you combine a strong property strategy with an unstoppable mindset, there's literally no limit to what you can achieve. So do, guys, reflect on today's episode and think about one action that you're going to take away from this week. Take action with it, because that's going to get you closer to your property goal. And of course, if you know someone who is struggling in their property journey, please do share this episode. It could be the absolute game changer that they need. And remember, the more people that we help, the greater our own wealth in every single sense of the word. Growing this community means growing the potential we all have to succeed together. And do remember, your mindset is your greatest property. Keep building it.